How's everybody doing? So I want to talk to you about modeling trees, in this case Pacific Northwest trees on this HO scale layout that I've been building. Now for those of you that need a little bit of context that are maybe new to the channel, this channel, although it's called Boomer Diorama, the boomer reflects my generation and diorama reflects my philosophical approach to modeling a scene in the round with a painted backdrop, whether it's three-dimensional or two-dimensional. That's the concept of the diorama, if anyone was wondering. The actual diorama's been around long before the silver particle negative camera, or in this case digital camera, or model railroads. Like model railroads weren't even conceived like 100 years before the diorama was already a main attraction as a full-size exhibit to capture a scene in a mood and you know, to stir emotions in the viewer, etc., of whether it was an African safari or you know, a scene like this, let's say, but usually in full scale, and it had a round backdrop and glass in the front and lit, so it was moody, and you'd look at it and feel like you were there. This concept, or the model railroad concept, was really an extension of the actual traditional diorama. Like the actual diorama as an art form was really brought about or grandfathered in by people like modelers, artists in the 70s, like Shepard Payne, Louis Pruneau, Francois Verlinden, Bob Letterman, people like that, and many others who took the concept of the diorama and miniaturized it. Okay, like Ray Anderson was one. Like he's a fellow that's passed on now, but he wrote a book called The Art of the Diorama that I recommend anyone to read. Yeah, it's maybe seems older and maybe obsolete methodology, but he was still one of the godfathers of the art of the diorama. And for me, like at a young age, I read that book till it fell apart. And then I thought, that's the approach I want to take to whatever it is that I do, whether it was a scale model, a museum exhibit, the you know, discipline is practiced in film, etc. Right? Like I'll just show you like a photo of a big layout that I built. This was at the Granville Island Model Train Museum in the 90s. I had to hire, like I was hired to do all the scenery on this layout. I think it was about 2,000 square feet. So it was O scale. It was huge. This is just a small section like you see here, sort of comparatively speaking, of this layout. Now, I'll just tell you briefly and quickly, like I never had the time wasn't given me to actually finish the whole layout. Other people sort of took over later. I worked on it for over a year and a half or two. But there was over 7,000 model trees of every size imaginable, okay? So you can see that I've been doing trees for, you know, a long while. I have a bit of experience. But, you know, you never fully master them. Trees are the most difficult subject to model, like in my experience. And I've modeled, you know, just about everything in this particular medium, right? Whether it's scratch built or kit bashed or whatever. And I still am challenged by trees. And every now and again, I'll go on a bender, like a tree bender, I call it, where, okay, I want to try to model a specific species of a tree. So I have this much experience. I learned this on the last batch. I want to change this on the new batch, etc. And what I want to do is show you, like, take you into my space and show you how I think about it and how I approach a specific model tree. Like I'll show you a couple examples. I won't make it lengthy, but I'll just give you some insights into how I approach model trees and the reason why I do it. So in this scene right here, there's about 38 trees, but it actually looks like almost 3,800, like, you know. But that's what happens when you model a specific tree. They have the power of 10 is how I view it. Like they just stand out more, and they almost sort of magnify their numbers in a way that's sort of hard to explain, because I don't know, maybe it's the detail of the tree, not really sure. But you can see that the depth of the trees back there, there are other trees back there of, you know, lower status, let's say. So nothing is wasted. Like every tree that you have on your layout, you can rearrange them over and over again. Put your best trees forward and then push the older ones, let's say, because we always keep growing in our skill set, and then bring the better ones forward. And it's sort of a visual illusion or trickery that we can apply to our model railroads or even dioramas. Dioramas are probably more difficult to do that way because they're scrutinized more, but that's my approach to this particular layout, however long it takes me to build. This is section 2 of a 3-section layout, which I'm working on and trying to share, you know, the whole chronology with the viewers. So let's go down to my bench there and have a look, and I'll just take you into a few particular scenarios on how I approach the model tree and why I do it the way I do, okay? Let's say your layout, you're going to put 10 years into your layout and it's in the Pacific Northwest. You're going to be building trees for 25% of that time. So 2.5 years maybe, you know, right? Well, it depends how you build the trees, and it depends on the focus, you know, on the layout, right? Because, you know, somebody asked me a question a while ago, you know, like, how do you merge, you know, the concept of the diorama with the model railroad? Well, there's another conundrum or another enigmatic question in the context of model railroading. It just shows you the diversity and the, you know, the sheer versatility of the hobby in terms of how you can approach it, right? But the way I approach these trees like this is because these are like foreground feature trees to me, and like ones like these, they're sort of the background, or will be. This is all the branch work done on these, but I haven't done the flocking yet. But like, what is a feature tree? Well, a feature tree will be one that probably stands alone or up front. of a grove that's in behind it. Like let's just say, you had another 6 trees or whatever, or 60 or whatever, and it was, and the grove was coming to a point, let's say, and there's a bridge right here, or a town, but your track's running like this, right? And you just want to focus on this area, because when you look at this area, all the rest gets filled in by your imagination, or it seems as detailed in the theater of your mind, because the first impact or the first image in the forefront when you approach the scene, the model, diorama, model railroad, whatever, is enhanced by the up-close detail, right? So this tree's been flocked now with that 2 mil. So what I do at this stage, before I call it done, there's a couple of things, is I massage off the loose, you could probably, I don't know if you can see it on this white piece of paper, but I just sort of gently rub the branch clusters, and I just want to lose any loose 2 mil fibers that are going to shed now, right? Before I flat coat this or seal it. Now you can seal it with a spray balm if you have confidence in the matte sealer that you're using. And I generally don't have confidence in spray balm flat coats, even though I've endorsed like Vallejo in the past. Like I think they're good at times, but it's too unpredictable for me to put on a model. I might spray it on a weathered building or roof, because I don't care if I get blemishes from the flat coat curing, because it reacts a certain way to the paint. So it's not a slam against the product necessarily. It's the reaction of the paint underneath. You just don't know. Especially with model railroading, we use a diversified selection of glues, paints, and adhesives. And you just don't know what kind of reaction, because there's a chemical reaction that occurs whenever you combine different paints and glues, right? So you don't know. So I like to use Tamiya flat coat, as I mentioned before, because I know it's safe and it won't leave any white spots or blemishes. So I'll probably just thin down a cup for this. So once all this, see how some of it's come off there? Not much, right? That's why I like matte medium, because when you're stabbing in there, like, it just works so well. And it's flat and clear, like even if it's blobby, like it all goes away, you can't see it. So so now, because this tree is made of wire, right? Like, see, so I'm not going to bend these, like while I'm building the tree, I'm going to leave any deformities alone until I get near the end. So now I'm going to take these dead branches on the crown of the tree here, and I'm going to basically just pull them out and shape them, because I'm getting near final on this tree. And that's the beauty of a wire armature, in this case a wooden dowel wire armature tree, right, is the flexibility. Now I can compose each branch. I like that. I like the ability, it's a certain flexibility and option in the model right to the very end. And speaking of the very end, I don't finish completely the paint, like highlights on the tree, until I put it into the scene, stand back and look at it with the lights on and everything. And then I'm going to come in and I might touch up a few things on the tree, but all the base colors are done. But I can just pop this tree out and then put it on the bench and touch it up or paint it, right? So here you can see, so cedars, in this particular case, have these long cascading limbs, or they grow out and they droop, right? So I can do that with this tree. I can play with it and compose and put a bend or anything in each wire limb. And it's coated in, this was just texture paste or matte medium acrylic, which is flexible. So when I bend it, the odd time you get maybe a little crack in here, but you can just fill that with a little bit of matte medium and paint, or just matte medium. It'll just seal it, clear it, and the color will show through the matte medium flat, and you won't even know. It's another reason why I like to use it, because it's self-healing and covers up cracks and mistakes without having to repaint as well. So like this branch here, I can say, okay, I want to leave that, maybe it looks cool, or I can bend it up and say, well, this is starting to do a candelabra, because that's what they do. It's starting to go up. But I'll know that when it's in place. So that's what I want to do, is I want to go up onto the layout and have a look, because I just got to airbrush some of this grass and then airbrush some of the base on the layout where this is going to drop into. There's sort of a perimeter around here so you can't see this. So it's just a pop in, pop off tree, and it stands on its own, okay? Okay, how's everybody doing? So this is that maple tree, and I've got some of these leaves on here, which I just put on. I haven't sealed this tree yet, nor have I finished flocking it, but I really love these leaves. Like, I like the desaturated look about them. Like, please don't ask me where I got them. Well, here, I'll tell you where I got them. A curator at a museum that I worked for gave me these as a gift. He used to give me little gifts and things, and he kind of understood the modeler's mind, and he could find anything in the world, and he found a bag of this stuff. Like, I don't know if it's knock. Like, I know knock does round leaves, but these are, I've mentioned this before, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but they're dark green on one side and sort of light green on the other. So when you flock them on, you get this kind of a sort of a glistening kind of, look to them, like you would see, if you see a tree, and there's a little breeze and the leaves, they kind of turn up kind of, and they kind of dance, and they flash the different colors. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to add some moss, like, first, like, I'm not totally finished painting this tree quite yet. I like the texture. I like the base color. It really matches this look. These are trees in my area. Like I say, study the prototype, right? Huge maples in my area. Like on the west coast up here, like they love this climate, obviously. This one's had big limbs cut off of it, see? And I sort of modeled that right here. I just used the end of some bamboo or wood dowels, just cut them with pliers and stuck them into the wet texture paste, and then just molded with a brush around it. I just sort of sculpted them into the tree. And then, you can see this sort of big opening here, which inspired me to do that. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to decide, like, the one thing that I often do when I'm building a tree is I'm thinking about the layout where it's going to go. Well, a few spots where it may go, because I never fully decide ultimately until it just clicks, you know what I mean? But I do look at the tree and I go, okay, so there's less limbs on this side, so maybe if the track is on this side, I'll face the tree this way, or if it's overhanging a river or a lake or a building or whatever. So if I'm going to see this part of the tree, then I'm going to sort of maybe dress it on this side so that I see that. Like, you can see the moss here, that there's quite a bit, like here. Like, this is a nice touch. I might even do that. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous in HO, but in O for sure. And if that's the philosophy of your modeling, then for sure, you should. So moss has its own characteristics as well. So I have this, turf. It's never mentioned to use this on trees, this woodland scenic fine turf. Like, they never say on the label for trees. They just say for groundwork, foliage. Well, I think they say foliage, but I really like it. And I sort of blended this with some light and dark to get a kind of a, close to that, but I can darken that with a wash if I want, but I like to just get it on as a texture first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat kind of like this tree, like this sort of backside with some straight matte medium. And I'm just going to paint a pattern, a random pattern on the tree where I think the moss is going to grow. You know what I mean? And at the end, when it's all done, then I'll touch the tree with a little bit of highlights. So here's a big maple burl there. Maybe a bit of moss grows on there. And then down this back side a little bit. And if you see cracks in the trees because you've been bending it right for it, don't worry about that because you can just heal them with matte medium anyway. There's a piece that's sort of cracked, but you won't see it anyway because it's going to be planted in the ground. So yeah, so I'm just going to put it on straight matte medium because it won't dry right away. It'll stay wet. And then I can see, maybe there's some up the back side here, like that. So now that we got that on, I'm just going to take this, just use my hand, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on. So you can see how that creates a little bit of that moss effect, okay? Okay, so we got this big old cedar, and you can see that I basically just dusted a little bit of the top with this thin gray, and oh my goodness, does it ever cover, right? And it's 5%. And if it doesn't right away, just let that first coat dry, do it again, it'll just build up and it'll cover beautifully. So turn the pressure down. Like I usually shoot at 30, 40 PSI, so I turned it down to 15 or 20, so it's almost spattering. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to come way back though. Like look how far back I'm going. Like I'm not in close like this anymore, but I'm way back like this, right? And I'm going to just, you know, just splatter just thin, right? Turn the tree. Okay, and you're going to see a little bit of a filter going on there, gray sort of spattery filter, and that's what you want. Especially at this scale in HO, because you're really not going to have the luxury of, you know, necessarily seeing this in HO, like, or actually probably like that. But in O you would, or larger, you can model that. But there's no need for that really, right? So you can see how this tree is getting a little bit more of a gray hue to it, see? And it's more red-brown down here. Like, let me just do some on the root system here, because I can put a wash in this and change it if I want later. So I'm just going to give it little shots, right? So if you walk up close to a western red cedar, you'll see they actually have a gray kind of bark bleach, like a sun bleached kind of bark. So I don't know what that looks like on camera. It probably looks more, it actually looks more severe, I think, than it actually is in reality. But now to tweak this tree, I can take some Vallejo, like burnt umber, and just a dark wash and flow it down this tree, and it'll clean up and highlight some of the shadows in those roots. And you know, and you just do that until you just decide to say, okay, I like that, it looks pretty good. Now if you want to do like a dead kind of limb, okay, like see these limbs right here, if you want to do that, then you just man, that covers this paint. Like that's incredible. Like this paint is so incredibly thin, and look how it covered. All right, so see the gray? All right,